have a guest with us today, Scott Stouffer, the founder and president of technology for SEO Engine, a co-founder actually. And Scott, welcome.
Thanks, Byron.
So we're very excited about chatting with you about this concept of thinking like a search engine, and what I hope will leave you with the ability to sting like a bee when you leave this presentation. Let me go over a couple logistics with you, and then we'll chime in and go right at it here. For starters, we would love for you to ask questions throughout the presentation. We'll be monitoring those questions that come in, and while Scott is speaking, I'll actually be manning any questions you may have as well about Scott's presentation, and try to get back to you with a quick answer, as I always like to do. So I'm communicating directly with you and sharing the answers with everyone else for the questions you might have. But that really helps us. Second of all, if you want to send any tweet love to us, some direct messages would be really great, something I really appreciate from anybody that's listening in. I also want to throw out an offer to get some thoughts from you on the webinar, perhaps a testimonial saying, Byron, these webinars are fantastic, we love them, it helps me with my business, thanks so much. And in return for any testimonial, I will happily send you a $25 gift certificate at Writer Access, our new model that we launched. I'll give you a coupon code that you can use to get a $25 credit over there. That's a super exciting model that we had, so I appreciate that feedback. We're actually going to try to do some work in the next few months on getting together testimonials for these webinars and really pushing them to a wider audience to get the word out. So any help you could offer there would be really great. Just send that to Byron at ideaLaunch.com. You'll see my email address at the end of my presentation. But without further ado, let's dive into this topic. Hopefully everyone's listening in now. I'm looking at the chat. It looks like everyone's tuned in. So let's kind of walk you through what our goals and objectives are today, and spin you through things. For starters, I'm going to give you my brief, quick snapshot of the content marketing revolution. And I think we have quite a few new listeners into the webinar today. It's important that everybody gets on the same page with what the revolution is always all about, and what our goals are in the fight, and how it all works. Next, I've put together some really cool tips that I think will get you understanding how the search engines thinks, and give you some really quick takeaways that you can put to work immediately upon a review of my part of the presentation. And finally, we'll jump on the SEO Engine with Scott and learn about his incredible technology platform that I've personally seen myself. And we'll dive into a close-up look at how SEO Engine can really become the engine of choice for you to get some interesting analysis done on how your site's performing and how the search engines are seeing it. So let's see. Without further ado, the content marketing revolution, what is it? It is certainly defined as the art of listening to customers' wants and needs, and that's probably the biggest opportunity that we have in the marketplace right now, is to better listen to what people want. We're doing a pretty good job of that, and tracking social media, your search box, and looking at analytics, but I'm convinced there's a better way to understand customer wants and needs, and I think we're going to see some real advancement there. It's certainly the science of delivering content to them that's compelling, and you need to do that with a diverse portfolio of assets these days. It's no longer just a blog or white papers. It's really a diverse series of assets you need to generate. And the key is, of course, to catch readers that are orbiting at high speeds that are without a doubt off your website. You know, it's not just about publishing content on your website. You need to think beyond and really look at a richer way to connect with people. And the key, of course, of this all is to publish and create information that people want and need. And these are just buzzwords here that help you understand the actual words that I'm suggesting that we start including in content we create. Words like help, advice, insight, innovation, rationalization, love, happiness. You know, we need to get in tune with the information that people want and need. And let's face it, everybody wants help and advice and guidance. And it's testing campaigns to see what works, and you know, really learning through a scientific process with lots of different choices you now have to sort out you know, how to find the greatest path to engagement, which is the next slide, of course, is finding the most efficient path and that's using social engagement and qualifying leads and looking at those leads as they move down through the funnel. So that's pretty much a summary, which can perhaps be best explained, which what we believe is a 6-step process. Content marketing really is a very methodical approach to looking at your company's marketing efforts and what you're publishing. And it starts with planning service, as you can see, and doing a lot of things with competitive intelligence. For those of you that have been on this webinar series, you know that I spend a lot of time talking about all the steps to this process. I'll be speaking at DMA next week and walking people through this workflow, and Conversion Conference in New York the week after that. DMA is actually in Boston next week, which is great for us. I don't have to travel to speak at a conference, but it's really exciting what's happening out there, and this workflow is making its way into a lot of companies' hands and becoming an important part. We believe it starts with planning, but it ends with performance, and that's what we're trying to educate people on. So let's get into it. How do I think like a search engine and sting like a bee? Let's review some tips that I've prepared for you here. The first of which I really spoke about, but you really need to diversify your asset portfolio. And this is an example of how, in the planning process, we really take a close look at how many assets you have versus your competitors. And we can certainly look at we can look at the total assets of you versus the competitors, but we can also look at the individual assets and how diverse your portfolio is, looking at web pages or white papers, case studies, success stories, news articles. I mean, you really need a diverse portfolio of assets, and it is my professional opinion that the spider bots and the search engines are looking at these diverse assets and scoring your website and your likelihood to own a greater percentage of the market share, which I'll talk about in a little bit later, based upon the diversity of your assets. We can, of course, look at social publishing frequency. How social are you? How do you stack up with the competition? What is the volume that you're publishing? You can also look at your fan base in the social sphere. And certainly, I believe the search engines are looking more and more closely at that. There's been some great articles recently that I'm going to try to summarize on our blog and get links to you, but it's becoming increasingly relevant to your overall success, and we're seeing some high correlation with increased traffic to your website, improved listing positions in the search engines, directly related to the growth of your fan base and the frequency that you're publishing in the social sphere, the retweets of people connecting with your content and connecting with you. This is all becoming relevant and important. Another thing to look at is your organic market share. And this is a snapshot of what we call an organic market report. And what we do with customers is we try to break out keyword silos that we want them to focus on for content creation and optimization and even distribution. And those silos all have names on them, and they feature groups of keywords that are all mutually exclusive to the other silos. So we're focusing our effort. Then what we do, we say, okay, let's go see. For all of these keywords in here, let's see if we're ahead of the competition in the search engines or if we're behind the competition, looking at the competitors as a whole. And we can then sort of ascertain that we have a percentage of organic market share for each of the individual silos. So we then have a base camp to say, okay, our goal and objective with content marketing is to write more and publish more and make it great content, and then measure and track how we're doing versus the competitors for each of these individual keyword silos. But don't think for a second that Google isn't looking at that as well. Of this group of keywords that all of these competitors are listed for, who's on top, who's not on top, who's rising in terms of publishing more content, who deserves to have a top listing over someone else. I mean, this is what an algorithmic team of individuals is working on at Google every day, and these stats are absolutely relevant to thinking the way they do. You can also look at market share in terms of pay-per-click dollar value. My pal Mike Roberts over at SpyFu and the Recon reports actually assesses a dollar value of a keyword. If you were to get a #1 listing at Google, what would that keyword be worth? And it's looking at the search volume and how frequently that word is searched, multiplied times the pay-per-click price, which begins to give you some idea what the value of that keyword, the dollar value of the keyword. And likewise, I think the search engines are looking closely at that, saying, look, we can't give all of the dollar value and the market share, to one company. That's not going to give the diversity that our readers and searchers need at Google. So they've got to diversify the organic share and the market share for these keywords, and looking at it a couple different ways, both organically and with pay-per-click. Next, certainly link popularity, probably the most talked about element to thinking how the search engines work. But wait a second here, maybe likes are the new links. There's a lot of people in this industry that believe that likes, could be slowly creeping up on Google's interest in valuing a website and a web property and their Facebook page, their corporate page, with how many people like that page, what the value is in that sphere. So, link popularity certainly will be something to look at. How do you stack up versus your competition? But I think we need to look beyond that as we move forward. And number 5 is link building. I really believe that Google is looking very closely at the link structure within your own website. I mean, after all, that's what you can control. It's a testament to your savvy with regards to building links. Here's an example of a page that has clear spamming, link strategy. Too many words. Look at content management in the center paragraph there is linked to actually the same page twice. I mean, enough is enough, and Google is clearly picking up on that. This is a way too dense. But here's some secret sauce that I like explaining to people with regards to building links. And it's a simple philosophy. It's one I've been practicing with our team here for many, many years as we try to build links with best practice. Imagine if this sentence, if the word big beef linked over to Omaha Steaks. I had a big beef with my boss the other day. The steak was cooked to perfection and melted in my mouth. Google would not know what big beef means unless they looked at the keywords and the words around that phrase. And that, in my opinion, is precisely what's going on. Every time you craft a link, it's not just the link itself, it's the words around the link. Are you talking, is it a contextually relevant link to the content on one page versus the content on that page you're linking from? That's the secret sauce of link building. You can start practicing it today and now as you build your links out. So next, we've seen a lot of work. We track about 1 million keywords over at WordVision, this technology platform that I'll talk about later that's actually free. You can get a free trial of it and try it out. And we find that a lot of our customers are constantly changing and moving around their listing positions. And clearly, Google is unhappy with a stable #1 ranking for that particular domain name or a stable #2. So we find that there are trends that you need to pick up on when you're looking for a competitive nature. What's interesting is, are your competitors constantly changing around those listing positions? Is Google looking closely at how their user base, their searchers respond to your website by putting it in different positions? So there's a lot of things you need to really look at with regards to analysis of how your site's performing and how the search engines are looking at it. Next is optimization strength. Inside WordVision, which again you can get a free trial of, you can score content for SEO strength that runs a little keyword density analysis and actually puts a score on the page, and you can even select a particular keyword silo that you want to score it for. But we have another tool, which is a free tool. You can actually type in pagestrengthtool.com and it will go to a page on ideaLaunch that's our page grader. And you can just type in a phrase that you want to see how that page is optimized for, type in the domain name, and it will immediately print out this grade B formula that you see below here, where it will go in, it will tell you, is that phrase used in the title tag, the meta descriptions, the meta keywords, how many times does that word appear on the page, what is the link popularity to that individual page, and what's the latest position at Google and Yahoo and Bing, for that particular keyword phrase. So, this is basically, a quick snapshot of what a spider sees on the page, and I think it's a good representation of trying to get inside the mind of a search engine and see what they see on the page. I think Scott's going to bring us about 400 levels above that, but it's a nice free quick tool that you can use to see what's going on. So content quality, is the big buzz these days. Believe it or not, we're thankful that Google developed Panda and rolled it out, across the board. We're of course feel badly for many sites that were hurt by it, but clearly, you need to be thinking hard about quality content these days, and it's not easy to create great content, as these two quotes take a look at. But I do believe it's easy to edit content and to make it better. Here's an example of a paragraph that you're going to get if you choose to download this deck. And it's a fairly well-written article, but take a look at what our editors do when we go in and edit content. There's a lot of red on this. We're changing things around and rephrasing things and leaving a client, and I would argue the search engines and readers with a better content asset that reads better, that's tighter, that explains the value proposition in a better way. Editing, in my opinion, is the secret sauce that we're going to see moving forward, and I believe that Google, certainly has linguists on their staff, the PhDs that are looking closely at syntax and words and phrases and the ability to really analyze content and determine its value. Distribution channels, is of course relevant these days, and putting that all together, and into a format where it can be analyzed. And you need to be thinking way beyond, obviously, your blog, but getting your content out to the right place at the right time, including, I always love arguing, printing a physical book. Your interest in this webinar was certainly the content, but getting a free 101 content marketing tips was, I'm sure, of value to you. That's our secret sauce with what we've used for the last couple of years to attract people to listening into what we have to say. But it's time for you to publish a book, and we're actually working on some really creative things over at Life Tips. We've published about 70 books over there, and we're re-rolling out that book publishing program to make it super simple for companies and executives to get a book published and produced with help and support and editorial support, as well as an audience to distribute the content to. So get the words out and the traffic in. That's really the message of distribution, and without a doubt search engines are seeing that. So publishing depth and frequency, as we just plowed through these last few slides. Notice that on March 10th we doubled the number of assets that were published on this particular website. And guess what? Come March, April, and May, the traffic on the website, in here you see the traffic not only improved, which you'll see on the second slide, but the overall listing positions improved, which of course caused traffic to improve. So, spike your content. We call it front-loading content, where we go out and we basically are training the spider bots to come into the site and to see a whole bunch of new content, which makes them say, wow, lots of new content, fantastic, I'll come back to this more frequently and look for more content. So you're literally training the bots to come back to your site to look to this new stream of content that you're publishing. And you need to stay steady with that. If you stop publishing, you'll see what happens. Your traffic drops. I mean, this is not rocket science over here, but it's interesting to just see it in a presentation like this and just have a wake-up call. But the next, number 9, here's publishing frequency and depth. Well, actually, these are all publishing frequency and depth. But so, what does your sitemap look like? And if these are all landing pages on a particular website, and how much depth do you see in each of these pages? How much information is behind a particular page? And that, I think, Google is paying a lot more attention to these days. You need depth. You need deeper pages within your website that are supporting the information people want and need about that particular page. And, of course, finally, time on site. A little trick of the trade for you here. What Google is really seeing is not just the time on your site. Obviously, they can't see that, but what they're seeing is Google, someone does a search at Google for, say, content marketing, and they find the ideaLaunch website. Google can legally look at that same person coming back to Google They have their IP address. They know they're coming back. The question is, Google can rightfully see how much time they spent on your site. There are not any regulations that prevent Google from seeing that, and that's probably in my argument, that's probably the single most important and overlooked element on your website is the time on site and how much time people are spending on your site. And I would argue that if you can increase that time on site by having better assets and better content on your site and stickier content or tools or resources or downloads or white papers and things that people want, and people are spending more time on your site, you will, in the end of the day, improve your listing positions and increase the traffic on the site and capture market share. So here's a couple free tools, which you may or may not have time to write down right now. I want to really save more time for Scott, but everyone will be able to get a copy of this deck and a download, and we're going to send that after this. So in final conclusion, the only content marketing left is content marketing. My favorite quote from Seth Godin, which inspired me to really start ideaLaunch and Life Tips and Content 6 and Word Vision and all these other services that we've rolled out in the last 14 years here at ideaLaunch. So thanks for listening in, everyone. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Scott. Take it away, Scott.
All right, thanks, Byron. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to, again, thanks, Byron, for inviting me to his webinar series. Definitely have a lot of information to show you, so I'm going to get to it very quickly here. Does everyone see my screen right now?
Just popped up on the screen. There you go. Perfect.
Good. So today, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to what the SEO engine is. Obviously, there's a ton of information that, from content marketing standpoint, can help you dramatically improve the results of your work. And so, again, as you work with ideaLaunch and you work with writing content, there's a lot of different pieces of information flying out there. And one of the cool things about the SEO engine is it kind of shows you from a search engine's perspective what's going on. So what is the SEO engine? Essentially, what we developed here is a transparent search engine. If you look at our infrastructure, it looks just like that of Google, albeit a lot smaller. And it essentially mimics what a search engine does. We have our own internal index that we constantly try to improve, moving good content up and bad content down. And what we've done is developed a series of screens that we put on top of that search engine. You can think of it as like a window on a search engine. And seeing in real time what's going on inside of a search engine like Google, how every page is being scored, how every link is being scored. It also gives you a lot of different control points, so you can actually take control of the SEO engine and go out and actually demand that it goes and crawls and rescores a given site. So that gives you an ability to make changes and then verify before the Google bots come back to your site that you indeed have made the proper changes. So some of the things that you can do with this, there's a lot of advanced things that you can do with it, but obviously the first thing is you can start thinking like a search engine. The ability to actually view the internet space from a search engine's perspective is it's a very complicated matter. There's a lot of algorithms that go into it, millions and millions of calculations just on one specific website. But from an SEO engine standpoint, it kind of rolls everything up and prioritizes things so that it takes all those complex algorithms and kind of produces a very simple output for you to digest. Another way you can use the SEO engine is to automate your SEO process. We allow you to schedule recalls, so you can actually set up rules and actually have a set of rules that get applied every time the SEO engine goes out and recalls a specific site, and you get notified if that rule is triggered. And the big thing on the SEO engine is it decreases the amount of time to identify all the penalties and errors and actually then go and fix those issues, because you can actually drill into any specific screen inside the SEO engine and see exactly what's going on. So what I'm going to do is kind of go over what search engines like. I know Byron did a great job of going through the top 10 list of things that you can do to think like a search engine. And essentially, all these things, all these signals that are being enveloped into Google are extremely important. There's millions of different signals that are put into query results when you type in a search on Google, or any search engine for that matter. And lately, obviously, we've been focused on the Panda update and a lot of the issues that have arisen from the Panda update. And so what I want to go over is essentially first of all, what Google says. Now, Google basically on their official blog, they're saying that their promoted content, they want to provide better rankings for high-quality sites with original content and information such as research, in-depth reports, and thoughtful analysis. Yada yada yada, right? So these are very high generalized platitudes that are typical from the Google blog, and usually cause more confusion than certainty among internet marketers. Now, you as a person who's writing content, you obviously know all this information already. So what exactly is the Panda update? What's going on here? And so for those of you who don't know yet, Panda essentially is synonymous with machine learning. Essentially what Google has done with the Panda update is they've taken a series of algorithms or a branch of artificial intelligence called machine learning. And essentially what machine learning is an attempt to actually evolve the search engine algorithms on their own. What does that mean? Well, essentially what they're doing is they have a manual process or a series of manual inputs like social inputs. The +1 would be an example. Another example would be hiring a team of editors to go over and say, I like this or I don't like this. I would put my credit card on this site or I wouldn't put my credit card on this site, and so forth. And a number of series of signals get fed back in this feedback loop in an attempt to actually evolve the algorithms and make them more precise on how to match good and bad content within Google. So the idea is, how do you match new content with known content? And so Panda is this series of algorithms that have attempted to start to do that, essentially. So they know what good content is, they know what bad content is, and then their goal really is to match your content or the new content they discover with one of those buckets of content, whether it's good or bad or somewhere in between. So obviously one of the most important issues that you need to know is, what is good content? And obviously you can see I've put good in quotes because that means good in terms of a search engine. Obviously looking at good content is a very subjective viewpoint from a human standpoint, but from a search engine standpoint it still remains a very objective view. It's based off of a set of finite algorithms, albeit those algorithms are now evolving slowly through some of this machine learning, but they have very core principles, and if you understand those principles and you can see like a search engine, well then it makes your life a lot easier because you can actually understand how the search engine is thinking, not from a human standpoint, but from an algorithmic standpoint or a machine standpoint. So the goal really is, the quick and dirty rule is just to simply reverse engineer what you know to be highly rated content. So one of the cool things about the SEO engine is it allows you to actually go and reverse engineer a site. So you can put in a competitor site or a site that you know that you want to aspire to be like, and you can go in and see what the link flow distribution is, what the market focus is for each page, how the content is, how the duplicate content correlation levels are inside the site, all kinds of different signals and factors that actually go into the scoring of every page and every link inside of a site. And then you can try to mimic that, and knowing that Panda is gonna most likely group your new content into a bucket of content that's good if you follow the same semantics that a highly rated site is actually using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the SEO Engine screens today. I'm going to try to keep things very simple. They can get quite complex. You can dive into as minute detail as you want, and they have all kinds of different uses. The SEO Engine can really be viewed as a sort of a Swiss Army knife. Whether you're a content writer, you have a series of screens that you might want to focus on. If you're a link builder, you're going to have a different set of screens that you're going to be interested in. It really just depends on what your purpose is. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the content-specific related screens and how they can help you decipher whether or not the content you're writing is good or bad. So the first screen is called the website search screen. And this is the most easy to understand screen. It's the most applicable to a search engine. It looks just like a real keyword search listing screen, except it's for a specific site. I'll take you right over to that right now. you can see right here, I've typed in the test drive site, VeniceChamber.com, and you're seeing a search listing of all the pages inside this site. And obviously, you have the ability to type in a keyword like Venice, and that will come up all of the pages inside of this site with its search results. Now, there's a couple differences here, though, that you'll begin to notice immediately between the SEO Engine results, a transparent search engine, and a search engine like Google, Bing, or Yahoo. One of those is you actually can see the query score, so you can see how relevant the results are to the query that you just typed in. And then you can also see these two bottom rows right here, one of which is market focus. Market focus is what the search engine thinks a web page is about. We're showing the top market focus here, and no prepositions are in any of the market focuses. These are sort of, think of them as like broad match phrases. The order is not as important. It's really the grouping of words and meaning. And there's actually a basket of market focuses, and we'll get into that later on when we get into the market focus detail screen. And the second row here, which is net total link flow. Link flow is our version of PageRank. The SEO Engine actually has a very finely grained version of PageRank. We don't have the logarithmic 0 to 10 scale. Rather, we have an actual absolute value of the value behind PageRank. So you can actually see and compare any page to any other page using that value, as well as any link to any other link. And it's a much more accurate way to look at the underlying potential of each document. The net total link flow essentially is the gross total link flow times the SEO Engine score. And that essentially defines what the net total link flow is, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. And then finally, the SEO Engine score, which every page has, every document has its own SEO Engine score, and this is basically an efficiency ranking. Think of it as how well am I using the potential ranking power for a given document. So that's the website search screen. The next screen is called the web page scorecard. And the scorecard will show you actually how the search engine is penalizing a specific page. It'll show you the calculation of the SEO Engine score, or the efficiency score. It'll show you the difference between gross and net total link flow. And it'll show you all the link penalties, and it'll give you links to every specific screen inside the SEO Engine that's specific to that penalty. So you can actually identify the penalty and then go and fix it very quickly by navigating to that specific screen. So let me take you through an example of that. And so if we click on any one of these, net total link flow or SEO Engine score, we'll get the scorecard. So let's scroll down here and see exactly. Oh, actually, one thing I want to do before we go to the scorecard is identify the difference between net total link flow. These values right here essentially separate documents on the internet. So if somebody types in the word frogs, green frogs, onto Google, you're going to get billions of pages with that are matching green frogs, all similar relevancies, all the millions of signals that are calculated are similar. And so the way that a search engine has to separate the wheat from the chaff is essentially rank documents underlying those similar documents. And that ranking scale is what we call net total link flow. And so you'll see here on results that are very similar. Let's see. Here's two documents that are very similar in query score. In other words, they're very relevant for the same relevancy. I'm sorry, not very relevant, but they're in the same relevancy score for a given search result. This is ranked over this because of simply the net total link flow. And this is actually sort of a tiebreaker between similar documents. So the higher net total link flow, the more potential you have to rank higher for any given keyword search. It's not keyword search dependent. It's simply to break a tie. Think of it as the ranking potential for one document over the other. So let's go ahead and click on one of these. Let me scroll down and see if we look at any of these results down here. Here's a good one right here. Let's click on this one right here. I'm going to show you a couple penalties that are specific to this page. So this is the scorecard, the web page scorecard screen. Now every page on the internet is going to have one of these screens inside the SEO Engine. So you can actually go and see the summary and detailed penalties for this SEO Engine score. And this is the summary page that you'll come to first. This actually will show you how the SEO Engine and net score and the net total link flow score is broken down. It starts with what we call the gross total link flow. And think of this as just simply raw page rank. This is calculated by our billion page index. We run our our specific algorithm that determines this link flow value essentially is a popularity contest, who's linking to who. Of course, it takes into account all the penalties that are being applied to each link. Every link is actually scored. So it's not just a simple calculation, but there's millions of different calculations that go into this. This actually is going to give you a raw score. And this is sort of the potential ranking power for this document. And so then the penalties are applied, and you can see right here that only 78% of the original potential ranking power is being utilized because of the penalties that are applied, and the net total link flow value right here. You can see the net total link flow value and the SEO Engine score are very closely related. The SEO Engine score is simply an efficiency ranking. It's saying I'm only at 78% efficiency, and you have the ability to actually correct this up to 100% and move this net total link flow value from 18.5 up to 23.5. So a significant increase in ranking power by simply just addressing some of the penalties that are being applied to a document. So if we click on this penalty factor, or the detailed penalties tab, you actually see some of these core signals that are being run across each document. Now think of these signals as sort of the general core business practices that every search engine is going to apply to start increasing the effectiveness of its index. Every search engine has its own special sauce, all these different signals that they've finely tuned and tweaked and continue to tweak every day. What the SEO Engine does is it takes the least common denominator between all the different search engines, and it takes these core principles that we know don't change over time. These are specific to all search engines, and this allows you to actually see all the major issues that are happening on every search engine for this specific page. You can see these are signals that get applied to every page because we've identified them, or every search engine has identified them as a signal that this page may be affiliated with spam or low-quality content. Now, obviously, a lot of times documents will fall into this trap without even knowing it, and this is the greatness of the web page scorecard, is you can actually identify what potential spam trap or signal that's been tripped is going on with your specific page or site. So, for instance, we have not quite enough on the number of unique words. Obviously, search engines prefer unique content. The search engine, the SEO Engine will actually remove a lot of the stop words, prepositions. We have over, I think, 10 million stop words in our search engine simply because we have this billion-page index that we can identify what words uniquely identify one page to another. And if that word doesn't do that, we actually will remove those and call that a stop word, essentially. So these are actual unique words on the page. You can see that while there are enough unique words on here, there is a slight penalty because there's just not enough on the unique side of things. Keyword stuff. This is a good signal that actually is run into quite a bit. And all of these you can actually look at the penalty effects right here. So you don't have to be a PhD to determine this. You just simply look at what are the major penalties here and address those one by one in the priority that you want. And if you want to identify where the penalty is, you simply click on this penalty location. In this case, we're clicking on the keyword stuffed penalty. And this will take you to a keyword stuffed analysis. You can see the word Venice is occurring 34 times. And the target right here is 30. We do that by looking at the average number of any word on this page, which is about 4 occurrences. And we take a statistical measure called standard deviation. And anything over a specific standard deviation will get penalized. And you can see right here we need to remove 4 instances. If you want to actually see the words that are actually appearing, you simply click on the word. And within every screen, you can always click on a graphical representation inside the SEO Engine. This is our cached view, if you were. And it will highlight any of the words with the word Venice. So you can see right here, not a lot of content on this specific page. So that's an example right here of the navigability of the SEO Engine. You can go in and actually see what's going on. Outgoing paid links. Obviously, this is a moniker, but this is essentially a non-editorial link that's going to an outside or external outgoing link, outside subdomain. Missing alt text on 7% of the images, and you have some duplicate meta descriptions. And so these are the penalties that are being applied to this specific document, and you can see immediately how to fix these specific issues how everything's interrelated. All this stuff is actually on each scorecard. So if I were to click on any one of these scores, you would go to the web page scorecard for that specific screen. And you can see how important that is. We talked about raising the score to 100%, and this would go to 23. You can see this would actually jump over this rank right here up to the third result simply by changing and upgrading the efficiency score for this specific document. And the SEO engine obviously allows you to verify any of the work, so as you do your work, you can simply indicate it to recrawl the site. It will go out, send its spider bots out, get it into the queue, actually start scoring and analyzing it over again, and you'll be able to see the results of your work. The next page I want to go over is what's called the market focus, and this will probably be the most interesting to most of you, since most of you are content writers. This is what a search engine thinks the web page is about. And obviously, this is a very, very complicated space or idea to actually implement. We worked on this for over 4 years. This is a highly complicated algorithm. It deals with a lot of semantic indexing, a lot of comparing the context of words that each word is in. And this is actually going to show you how each document is categorized or viewed from a search engine's perspective. The main takeaway from here is you want to make sure that each market focus is unique. And we have a number of reports inside the SEO engine and a number of screens that will show you any overlapping market focuses for that specific site. And the reason behind that is that when a search engine provides results to its users, it very rarely provides the same documents with similar market focuses in the same search results. So for instance, if you have two pages with similar market focuses, the page that has the more net total link flow will always get served first on a search engine result page. So essentially you're wasting the net total link flow of the one that's being masked for each search result because this document is too similar, and so it's essentially wasted. It's not going to pull in any organic traffic. And you'd be better off either changing that market focus or increasing the net total link flow or removing the document and moving the net total link flow over to the one that actually is being served to give it a better chance of ranking high. So let's click on one of these market focus pages. I'm going to click on the first result here. And this will take us to what's called the market focus detail screen. And we have two different variations of the market focus calculation. We have a 3-word and a 4-word market focus. The algorithm is the same. It just depends on the shingle or the grouping of number of groupings of words. If you have a very competitive market, then you're going to be working with a 3-word market focus or a 4-word market focus. I'm sorry. If you have not a very competitive market, you probably want to work with a 3-word market focus. So this is really just up to you. You'll get used to it as you use this inside the SEO engine. And let me take you through how the algorithm actually works and how you can utilize it when you write content. So the general idea is we take the phrases or the content on the page, we multiply it by some sort of weighting or vector by the anchor text, the incoming anchor text into that page, the links and all the power into that page, and that defines our market focused basket of phrases. We actually have what we coin an Uber keyword density report. Essentially, we filter out, again, millions of non-unique words as well as common stop words that are out there. And we show the number of occurrences of all these different phrases on the page. We then take the anchor text and we look at all the incoming links and associate a specific link flow to all of those incoming links. For instance, the activities. If we want to click on that word, you'll actually see all the incoming links into this specific page that have the word activities in the anchor text. You can see it here, it's highlighted for activities. And the net total link flow, you're looking at a linked listing screen right now, which we'll skip for now. This is more for off-page SEOs and link builders. But essentially what this is going to show you is the net total link flow share that's coming through in a specific link. In other words, how powerful is this link? You'll see the most powerful here all the way down to the least powerful on the link listing screens. And so if you total up all of these link flow shares, you'll actually see that this is the total here, then the associated link flow value for that specific word. Now what this becomes is sort of a weighting vector. Every time the word activities shows up in the phrases over here, we actually multiply this weighting vector, and we come up with a logarithmic weighting or rank of our market-focused basket. So you can see everywhere there'll be a lot of words with activity, a lot of market focuses with activities in them, and this is how you define or sculpt the basket of phrases that will trigger your document to come up on Google. Very important concept. All of these words are actually triggers to pull your document up. Now, whether or not it has enough net total link flow to rank high for that specific market focus or search is a different matter. But this is going to give you the ability to sculpt each document to have a specific, unique concept or meaning inside of your site, giving your site the biggest and broadest and the most stable set of organic traffic coming into your site. Remember, you don't want to have all your organic traffic coming in on 1 or 2 pages, your top pages. You're better off making each page unique and is equal player or statistically equal, bringing in organic traffic for your site. So this is a very interesting page to look at. Each screen, every document is going to have its own market focus details screen, and so you can actually see how the market focus is calculated. For instance, if we wanted to rank a different phrase better, say we wanted to do Venice Farmers Market, we wanted to either increase the number of occurrences of this phrase, of course without keyword stuffing, so you'll see that the SEO engine is all tied together. So when you make a change and you go and recrawl the site, you'll be able to see immediately if you've induced another penalty in a different area. So there's a lot of different ways to solve a problem, but each one has a specific user interface consideration, and as well as other considerations, other penalties that may be applied when implementing that solution. So one of the ways is to actually increase the number of phrases for that, or you can take one of the words and change it to farmers, or add a link, or remove or increase or lower the link flow share in a specific link. Obviously, these are more advanced techniques, and if you become one of our SEO customers, we actually will help you train you understand some of these more advanced techniques. But suffice to say, there are a lot of different ways to sculpt each market-focused basket to make sure that you have the phrases that you specifically want for each document. And of course, each one of these is going to have its own market focus details screen. You can click into any one of these at any time and see that calculation in real time. So it's really cool. The next thing I want to go over is duplicate content. Obviously, this is a major issue. Not so much with outside syndication of other sites, but just simply within a given website. As you start writing more content for a given subdomain, a lot of times the correlation factor or the duplication throughout the site starts to rise. You already have a natural understanding of natural correlation in your site simply because you have things like footers, headers, navigation bars. That will automatically put your site in each page usually in the 20 to 30% correlation range against any other document in your site. What we do is we actually will show you the duplicate content. If we go to click on any one of these screens here, this will actually take us to what's called a score sheet screen. This is sort of an overview of each page. It kind of groups together all of these specific screens. But what we can do is click on the Content tab. And on the Content tab, there's a number of really cool things that are going on. One of which, you can see all the metadata coming from the server related to the content. You can see the competition. We go into our billion page index and actually be able to show you all the different web pages with the similar market focus basket. So we say, okay, who else has this set of phrases in its market focus basket? And we pull out these top competitors. And again, you can click on any of these and go to their specific web page or web page scorecard or score sheet. And you can reverse engineer what they're doing and try to copy that. That's one strategy. And then the duplicate content. What we do is each document gets correlated against every other document inside the site. And we actually provide a correlation factor or percent duplication factor between this page and every other page. And we'll give you the top 20 right here. And if this gets above 50 to 60%, you'll start to see a penalty on its scorecard and lowering the net total link flow and increasing or lowering the SEO engine score as well. In this case, it's actually pretty low. you can actually click on the percent duplication. You simply click on that. It'll actually show you the overlap between this page and the page that I just clicked on. So you can see right here, here are all the words right here that are being duplicated between these two pairs of documents. And as you can see, there's enough content here besides the footer, header, navigation bar to actually lower that percentage overlap to a reasonable number. And so when you're adding content, you want to make sure that you have these numbers down in check. And you'll see with the SEO Engine, as you add content and you recrawl with using the SEO Engine, it'll actually show you if you encounter any issues. Your SEO Engine scores will start coming down, and you can click in there and you can actually see what, obviously one of the scorecard signals is duplicate content. Just to review this, you can see the max matched percent duplicate content here, and this actually is the top level right here. We saw the 33%. If this goes above a certain amount, you'll actually start to accrue penalties. So you'll actually be able to see this. This won't be something that will just kind of creep up on you. This will be definitely something that you'll be very visible when you use the SEO Engine. But this is the screen that kind of gives you the in-depth analysis of the correlation factor of each specific document. So this is a great tool as you add content to your site to make sure you keep those penalties in check. Make sure you keep your correlation factors in check. You're not adding content that's overlapping on a lot of different sites. And of course, this will also drive duplication with market focus as well. So everything's correlated and interrelated. The great thing about the SEO Engine is it's all part of one system. It's not a separate set of disparate SEO tools that you're used to. Everything's tied together. So when things start to shift, you can see them immediately in a number of different metrics on the SEO Engine. And then, so finally, basically, what I want to do is just kind of go over any questions that you might have. Obviously, you're going to direct those to Byron. But essentially, what I've shown you here is just sort of the main screens, content-related screens in here. There are quite a bit of other screens inside the system. I did reference. I'll just quickly go over this since I have a little more time. We can click on the link flow distribution, and this will actually show you what I was referring to before, where it'll actually highlight the duplicate market focuses. So you can see that one. These ones in red actually are duplicate, and it's very important that each document has its own unique market focus. We also have static Excel-based reports in our dashboard for each website that'll show you that as well. So there's a number of content-related metrics throughout the system, not just in the pages that I've shown you here. But again, I'd like to thank Byron for inviting me to his webinar here. I would like to invite everybody out there to read our latest article in this month's issue of Visibility Magazine, entitled Back to Basics. It does cover some of the Panda update and content penalties from a search engine's perspective. And if you have any questions, you can go to our site. You see right here, and we have a free SEO learning center, and training videos are free as well at the SEO Engine. So if you want to, educate yourself on how a search engine thinks, how it views the world, which is essentially the mystery in the last decade for internet marketers, go to the SEO Engine, and there's a learning center there that will answer almost all of your questions that you need. So that's it. I'm gonna turn things back over to Byron, and he can answer any questions that you guys might have.
Terrific, Scott. Great presentation, amazing technology, and we're all, of course, dumbfounded by the different pieces of data that we can look at on a particular web page, which is a good thing. We had some super questions in, so I'm just going to get to them right now and ask them. I'll chime in to any of the answers to any of these questions as well. The first one was related to, do you have any examples of websites that were affected by Panda? And if so, what did they do to rectify the problem? I've got a good one there. It's a customer of ours, so I can't list the name of it, but it was a company in sort of the Bed Bath, sort of space, and they owned a Yahoo store. Their traffic and their revenue tumbled about 30 to 40%, all in the matter of a very short period of time. they actually, their biggest problem was duplicate content. They were taking descriptions from the manufacturer for a lot of their products. They had about 10 or 20,000 SKUs, and pretty much a majority of that content was all duplicate. So they went into emergency mode, given that there were millions at stake, and actually recreated about 12,000 actual SKUs with original content on each of them. They used our writer access our marketplace, where you can connect directly with writers, and they quickly entered the old SKUs, and the assignment was to rewrite the descriptions and make it original content, and there were some other style guideline restrictions. They wanted a little zip, a little sizzle, a little bit, make it interesting, and of course they did keyword density checks on all of the products. So it was a massive project, but it was successful. Their traffic, it's not back 100%, but it almost quickly, they actually were smart in how they rolled out the content as well. They rolled it out over about a 2 or 3 month time period. So the spider bots were seeing that fresh content. They also added some informational support pages, and the bottom line is they just did a sanity check and said, here's our problem. We see exactly what it is. Let's fix it. So there's an example. Let's see. We had some other questions that I want to get to here. Someone had a question on. They had let me see. Our blog was originally published on its own, and then published as a feed on the e-commerce website. This year, we do not seem to be getting Google credit for the original content on the original blog. Do we have to publish first on the original to get the SEO credit? So that's an interesting question. I think what's probably going on there, and feel free to dive in, Scott, but my guess is Google's seeing the original content and they're trying to republish that content as an RSS feed on their e-commerce site, and it's like, danger, Will Rogers, duplicate content here. It's already been published on the original site. Wouldn't you agree, Scott? That's probably even what your engine would detect as well.
Yeah, and I want to quickly go back on your last question. One of the things that you can actually do as you roll out new content is actually identify or set up in your robots file to block the common search engine and allow the SEO Engine's search engine bots to come in and actually analyze what you've done before you actually pull the trigger. That's a really important concept, because simply putting stuff out there, it's not really something you can kind of take back. And so to prevent an issue where you go and put something out there that causes a bunch of drops in ranking, it's always easier to catch it and test it first with a real search engine like the SEO Engine, and then go ahead and release that out to the real world, so that you can do that through your robots file. So that's one thing that we like to do. So yeah.
On an interesting side note, over at Writer Access, to that very point you're talking about, over at Writer Access, when someone purchases an article, excuse me, terribly sorry. We actually send that article. We use Copyscape to validate that the content, that article hasn't been published anywhere else. It goes out and actually, will gray out any word strings that it finds. I don't know if anybody has seen Copyscape and how it works, but it's brilliant technology. Is that the type of technology that you're using as well, where you're literally scouring the web looking for word matches and sentence matches and paragraph matches and finding that duplicate content, Scott?
Yeah, it's very similar. We have our own kind of homegrown version of Copyscape, and we do a little more in-depth analysis within a specific subdomain. So we actually will show you that that correlation factor, and then as far as how each document is accruing that correlation, if that incurs a penalty or not. So yeah.
Nice. Sounds like you should whip that API over to me so I can use it. Let's see. Another question. Somebody had an interesting question about the big beef example. They just said they could explain that a little bit. Could you explain the big beef example that I showed? I'd be happy to. So, typically we laser focus on the actual keyword phrase itself when we build in an internal link that's say splattered onto a sentence. And let's say that in this case the keyword phrase is big beef. that first sentence that uses the word big beef leaves you with ambivalence on whether big beef means argument or steak. So I'll read you the sentence again. It's, I had a big beef with my boss yesterday. The steak was cooked to perfection and melted in my mouth. When you look at that, you don't know whether big beef means an argument or a steak. And I use this as an example, and I have countless times when I've spoken with customers. It's the words around that link phrase. And that's really hard, even Scott, I'm sure you to testify to. It's hard to pick up on that. I mean, we spend so much emphasis on looking at the page that it came from, the page rank of that page, how many links do you have coming to your website. But I wonder if Google is putting a lot of emphasis on the words around that link phrase, because certainly Google's technology is studying that closely. But do you have a comment on that, Scott?
Yeah, in fact, if you want to go ahead and quickly send the presentation over to me real quick, I can show you a screen that actually identifies that specific issue.
Awesome.
Come on, so what you're looking at right here is what's called a link scorecard, and we kind of skipped this, but to this point here, we actually are able to identify the relevance of a specific link. And again, like Byron says, there's a whole host of signals that go into it. We actually focus on the content around it. Of course, the market focus overlap between the two documents that are involved in the linking. And so intrinsically, the calculations or the signals that go into each determination of the relevance of a link is actually calculated by thousands of different calculations in itself. So it's sort of a recursive algorithm that gets applied for a page, then a link, then a page, and it actually all rolls up nicely into a nice relevancy score. So we have the ability to actually see how relevant, for instance, a meta title is, or a meta description, or a link between two different documents. So this is an example of a link right here, and obviously it's a very relevant link. Let me see if I can go back and look at a link here that is maybe not as relevant. Let me look and see here. See if I can find one way down here on the bottom end of things here. Click on the scorecards. For every link, you can click on a scorecard, and actually we'll see the penalties for that. So here you go. Here's an example of a link, and you can see that we've actually deducted 95% of the score or the link flow going through this specific link. So even though that this is how links are penalized. Links are actually penalties for links aren't necessarily the same thing as a web page penalty, because that link flow flows to other links on the page. You don't lose that link flow. You're just simply not getting as much power through that specific link. So if you're buying or selling links or doing something with links internally that you're structuring the link structure, you want to be able to see this so that you understand that in this specific case, not much link flow is going through this specific link. You can see obviously there's different levels of relevancy. There's I think not relevant, and there's a couple levels in between and excellent. So all of these are factors in how each link is being scored. And so if you have any question about whether or not a link is relevant, from a human eye, like Byron's perfect example, it might look just fine or passable. Maybe that would work a decade ago. But I can tell you right now it doesn't work on the SEO engine, and it probably doesn't work on Google, Yahoo, Bing, and some of the other major search engines. So that's one of the cool things you can use the SEO engine for. I'll go ahead and pass you back over.
Sure. You can hang on to it if you want. Let's see. Question: in the past, search words throughout your website were king. It sounds like you are not advocating duplicate content. How do you find the balance? So this is the person that asked this question needs to understand that we are advocating using keywords and content, I think, and using them appropriately and according to best practice. When we use the phrase duplicate can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and I think it means something a little bit different to the person that asked this question. Duplicate doesn't mean duplicate individual words. Duplicate content tends to mean more of duplicate duplicate actual sentences and duplicate paragraphs and actual duplicate chunks of content that Google, you can see why Google and the search engines would not want you to do that. They want to choose one of those pages that features that original content on it, not numerous pages, and list all those numerous pages. So the search engine needs to make a decision which of these pages is most relevant and most popular and most appropriate for us to display in our search results. So that's sort of where that comes into play. So your stuffed keywords that you have on the screen right here is probably the answer to that. But do you want to expand upon that at all, Scott? Or do we nail that one? There's some other questions we need to get to.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, essentially, just keep in mind that it's sort of a game of whack-a-mole. You fix one problem on one side of your site by doing a specific action, and you want to make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot by inducing another penalty on a totally different signal. So one of the just keep in mind that if you have a tool like this or something that can give you an overview of all the penalties that are going on in real time, that'll give you an idea or kind of keep you from falling into that trap as you add more content. You're not overdoing it or inducing things like keyword stuff penalties or having any match duplicate content.
Another great question here. How will republishing content in the social sphere affect the bots from reading it as duplicate content? So I'll take a first crack at that. So I'm a big fan of publishing content out in the social sphere. There isn't a lot of room, for example, on Twitter to publish an entire article or a summary of your blog post. So really what you're doing is you're just trying to drive traffic and drive the bots and drive some recognition to that particular link. You're actually hoping that people retweet that and push that out once you make that post. And the more people are out tweeting and linking to a particular page, the better. I would not at all worry about duplicate content in the social sphere. That's really what the social sphere is all about, people talking about the same content asset or the same page. So much different subject than the duplicate content issue that we saw on the e-commerce site where thousands of potential websites were potentially using the exact same copy on the exact same page, leaving Google with no choice but to choose one of those thousands of people to list as the actual product. But yeah, good question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I answer that from a search engine's perspective. There is definitely a timeline and sort of a timestamp on every document inside of a search engine on when it was first crawled. And we do have algorithms that actually will identify the first version or attempt to identify the first version of that content. This is a very important feature in it's like CopyScape, for instance. And so one of the things that maybe not so much in a social sphere, maybe I'm not misunderstanding the original question, but he might have meant essentially press releases, anything that you put out there that may be also on your site. And if that's the case, just a quick tip number one basically is before you do a press release or before you do anything that you're going to give or syndicate out there, just put it on your site. Make sure you verify that it's been crawled. And that's really the major thing that you can do to prevent Google from or any search engine from kind of tagging you as a syndication or copied content.
Someone has a question, Scott, and I'm going to have you answer this, and I'm going to add something to their question. What are the effects of using a subdomain for content? Does the value of content on subdomain pass to the base domain? And before you answer that, can you talk about the distinction between, say, contentmarketing.idealaunch.com versus idealaunch.com/content marketing? Can you distinguish and do your engines make those distinctions?
Yeah, and so it's not so much delineated by subdomains anymore. It's really, if you look at the graph of the internet inside of a search engine, it actually has no boundaries, right? So what we do is we actually group things into what we call neighborhoods. And essentially what these are tightly grouped documents inside the graph of the internet. And it could be within subdomains or however way that you dream it up, as long as it is interconnected or tightly connected with the groupings of other documents, it's going to view it as the same neighborhood. And so some of the things that we actually will show you is actually how well your neighborhood is doing around a specific page or around a specific link or a specific subdomain. So to answer your question, as you add content, not only is the document that you're adding or updating is being affected, but everything around it is being affected. Think of it as like sort of the butterfly effect, and it really truly is a butterfly effect. You can change one thing inside of a neighborhood, and it will disturb that neighborhood a bit, so that it actually will you'll see some perturbation of different scores within documents in that neighborhood. So it really doesn't matter whether or not you're putting it on a subdomain, or if you come up with a trickier version of maybe putting it on one-way linked site or whatever like that. For modern search engines today, we really don't care. We're past that point. We've already algorithmically discovered how to nullify any kind of things that are going on as far as the organization of where the content exists. It really just depends on who's linking to who, what the neighborhood definition is, and that kind of sets the boundaries of what affects what.
Excellent answer. Another question came in that I'm going to try to interpret, and it was regarding blog content and paragraph teasers for those blogs, and whether that's viewed as duplicate content, and how you're handling how the search engines are seeing that as a potential duplicate content problem. So, for example, the homepage of your blog might have the latest 5 posts, and it might have the first 4 sentences or 3 sentences, and then you click to learn more, and it opens up to that whole page. Are the bots seeing that as duplicate content issues? Are you being penalized for that? Is it affecting your blog? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, there's 2 different questions, and you rightly asked both of those questions. Is it seeing the duplicate content? The answer is yes. And is it penalizing for the duplicate content? And really that becomes a factor of what the level of correlation is. And that's why this is so important to actually be able to see correlation inside of one site. In this case, obviously the correlation factors here are within reasonable bounds. But let's say you don't have a lot of content other than those snippets of each of your 5 snippets on that page. Well, then those actually will have significant amount of correlation between the home page and the pages that actually are identified by those snippets. So it really is 2 different questions. You're always correlating, and the search engines are always comparing the difference or the vector between 2 different documents, how closely similar they are, and really it just comes down to how well correlated are those documents. So you can have these snippets and pages like that. Really where you get into trouble is where you get tag pages or pages that really have almost exactly the same content. They're just in a different format. In those cases, obviously, you're going to want to block in the robot style one version of those pages, and you always want to make sure that the search engine is only going to see the same, one version of the document at the most. But as far as snippets and things like that, where you'll get from content management systems like Joomla and WordPress, those are going to be a hit and miss. It really depends on the situation, the context, and you really can't, from a human's perspective, understand what's going on unless you use a tool like this where you can actually see the correlation factor going on to be sure that you're within bounds, you're not inducing any penalties on that specific page.
Scott, we're out of time, and really want to thank you for being on the show today.
It was a pleasure, Byron, and I hope everybody gained a lot of information from our presentation. And obviously, if you have any questions for me or Byron, we're always my door is an open door. So I'd like to hear from you guys.
Thanks again, everyone. If you could send in any compliments on this particular webinar, it'd really be appreciated. Byron at ideaLaunch.com. You can also tweet me with anything that you found positive or interesting. Really appreciate that. It's at Byron White. Thanks very much for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you next month. Look forward to another great webinar. Thanks again, Scott, and really appreciate everybody tuning in today. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.